Good morning, everyone. Good morning. If you're in the room, can I encourage everybody to please take a seat? My name is Jadisola Rawa, and I'm going to start my good morning again by saying greetings and salutations. So I have a 15-year-old daughter. She's in boarding school, and when she gets a chance, she would call, and my child calls one day and she goes, "Greetings and salutations, mommy." I'm like, "Are we okay? Is everything okay?" And she goes, "Oh yeah, that's how I want to be greeting going forward. And I have English exams, so once I write greetings and salutations, the examiner will sit and be like, oh wow, this child is special." So I'm copying my child's greeting this morning to say greetings and salutations. I still don't know whether that is going to make her pass IGCSEs. I will give you people feedback in August when we get the results. But good morning, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for being here. My name is Jadisola Rawa. And let me start by saying that I really, really, really like Dolapo. Because, let me tell you all the reasons why. It rained today in Lagos. My street was flooded. I had to wade through the water. I do not like to shower. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. So, I'm here because Dolapo sent, she goes, "Oh, Jade, there's something we need to talk about." I'm like, "Okay. Hi, Dolapo, what's going on?" And she goes, "Oh, we're having this event and I'd really like you to compare it." Now, when people ask you to do things like this, it's because they don't want to pay somebody to do it. So essentially, it's really more. But like I said, I know Dolapo, she's a lovely lady. I really like her. And I was saying to Buki, I said yes, I don't know what I was thinking. And then I woke up this morning and there's thunderstorm. I'm like, oh Jesus, this is not the day to leave your house. But we're here because Dolapo has invited us to be here and we're here for a great cause, and that makes me happy and it's something that I'll get out of bed for. So again, thank you everyone for coming. Everyone that's made it into the room, please give yourselves a round of applause. And thank you for coming. And because we're nice people here, we're not going to discount the people that have chosen to be lazy and joined online. So hello, online community, and thank you for joining as well. So sincere apologies, we're starting a little bit behind schedule. Lagos has done what Lagos does. But we're going to move on right along. And I'm hopefully going to be able to kind of just escort us through this in as efficient a manner as I can, but just also making sure that it's worth our while and we have a great time here today. So we're here for the Afara Immersive event. And again, like I said, when Dolapo mentioned it to me, I read up on it and I was like, oh, this is a worthy cause. This is something that makes a lot of sense and I'm excited to be here. And just to get us moving, like I said, we're going to make this very efficient but also very enjoyable. We will move on by welcoming from the Afara Advisory Board. I have Dr. Tunji Shobodu. He's the founder and CEO of Imet Leadership Academy. And so please, ladies and gentlemen, let's give him a round of applause as he comes up to give us his welcome address.
Thank you very much. Well, I won't be starting by greetings and salutations. And thankfully, I'm not taking IGCSE. I guess my fun way of greeting is to say grace and peace be multiplied to you in the precious name of Jesus Christ. Good morning, distinguished guests, partners, founders, participants, and friends of Afara Accelerator. And by the way, she said something about Dolapo. I guess he's the only one who could have brought me to the island at this time. After I vowed, after 20-something years in the bank, that this is not the way to come. So I appreciate your love for her, and I do have the same, by the way. It is my privilege to bring brief remarks on behalf of the advisory board as we formally launch Afara Accelerator. Today matters because infrastructure and energy are not peripheral sectors. They sit at the center of development. They determine whether businesses can grow, whether communities can function, whether economies can compete, and indeed, whether nations can deliver dignity to their people. I think that last one is more important than any other thing. Afárá Accelerator is therefore entering a space of real consequence. Our role is to support the founder with counsel, credibility, strategic guidance, and institutional perspective so that Afárá does not, and by the grace of God will not, become another short-lived initiative, but a platform that grows in strength, relevance, and measurable impact. Our hope is that Afárá will become a trusted pipeline for women who can influence projects, policy, investment, innovation, execution, and leadership across infrastructure and energy. We want to see women prepared not only to participate, but to contribute at the highest levels of competence, responsibility, and impact. To the founder, Dolapo especially, we say congratulations. You have started something important. Build it patiently, excellently, with integrity, and most of all, for the long term. To the partners and stakeholders, we invite you to support this vision seriously. Platforms like this need more than applause. They need access, collaboration, funding, mentorship, opportunities, and institutional backing. And to the women who will pass through Afárá Accelerator, please take these opportunities seriously. The door being opened here is not merely for personal advancement, it is for contribution, service, leadership, and nation building. And therefore, on behalf of the advisory board, I congratulate everyone who has worked to bring this launch to life. We are honored to stand with Afárá Accelerator, and we look forward to seeing the impact that will emerge from this platform in the near future. Once again, thank you and congratulations.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shobodu. Can we please have another round of applause for Dr. Shobodu? Thank you very, very much. I think we're all aligned today. You know, when people come and give like welcome remarks, it's short, it's poignant, gets to the point. I think we're going to have a great time today. So, without further ado, we will move on to the next item on the agenda. That will be open. So we have two opening remarks, but we're going to move on to the second one as we await the person giving the first one. But to give us the second opening remarks for today, which is essentially the first one now, I would like to invite Olubukola Lucas. She's the Trade and Economic Advisor, Consulate General of Kingdom of Netherlands, Lagos. So ladies and gentlemen, please let's give a round of applause to my friend. Let me farms now so that when I say I'm going to Netherlands, I bring my passport. Oh, well, yeah. But please let's give a round of applause to Olubukola. She gives us a...
Thank you very much, Jadisola. Unfortunately, we don't process we don't process visas, so we have to send you to the French Consul General or Consulate. And I'm very happy to be here this morning. Dolapo is a sister to me. I've known Dolapo for how many years now, Dolapo? Let's not go there. in the 20s. We were in university together, we were in, all of those things. So I will just quickly give my opening remarks and we'll move from there. So distinguished guests, members of the Afara Advisory Board, the OPB team, this is Susan. I think the mic is Susan a bit. And most importantly, the woman at the center of this moment, good morning and welcome. My name is Bukola Kolajo. I used to be Lucas. And I represent the Consulate of the Netherlands in Lagos, where my work focuses on trade and investment with an emphasis on strengthening economic ties and facilitating market opportunities between Nigeria and the Netherlands. It's a genuine honor to be part of this occasion. The Netherlands has long believed that sustainable economic growth is driven not only by policy, but by the people, by entrepreneurs, innovators, and business leaders who identify opportunities and turn them into viable enterprises. This is what Afara represents. In a landscape where women-led businesses continue to face significant barriers in accessing capital and scaling their ventures, what Dolapo and the OPSB team have built is more than an accelerator. It is a strategic platform that connects ambition with opportunity, linking entrepreneurs to market, capital, and partnerships, and enabling ideas to translate into commercially viable and investable businesses. From where I stand, initiatives like Afara are not peripheral to economic development, they are centered to it. Expanding trade, attracting investment, and strengthening private sector growth in Nigeria requires unlocking the full spectrum of the entrepreneurial talent. Today's program is a clear step in that direction. To the cohort participants, you were selected because your ventures demonstrate strong potential, clear market relevance, and the capacity to grow. Platforms like this one are designed to support your journey, to help you refine your business, access networks, and position yourself for investment. Congratulations and welcome to Afara. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bukola. Can we give her a round of applause, please? So you see, she wasn't lying when she said they've known each other for 20 years, because Dolapo put her name as Olubukola Lucas, and I know her as Kolajo, so I know her now. They've known her from way back. Thank you very much for that. I'm taking notes of a few things that, the speakers have said so far. When Dr. Shobodu talked, he talked about Dolapo's character, about integrity, and again, like I said, literally that's what I know about Dolapo as well. She and I have had a few, work encounters, met somewhere here or there, but I will tell you that Dolapo is someone that gives off those qualities, and it shows in the quality of the people that have come here today to support this initiative, this launch. Now, without further ado, we will move on to opening remarks 1, which is now opening remarks 2, but it's still opening remarks 1. And that will be given by Mrs. Adaori Udechukwu. She's the Senior Gender Advisor Africa, International Finance Corporation. So please, can I invite Mrs. Udechukwu to please give her a round of applause.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Good morning. It's really an honor to be here. And thank you, Dolapo, for insisting. I almost opted out, but we had to do this for Dolapo. Congratulations, Dolapo. So my name is Ada, like she said, but I bring you greetings from the World Bank Group and the International Finance Corporation, which is a member of the World Bank Group, representing the head of office, Mr. Christian Mulamula, who couldn't be here today, but given my role leading the gender work across West and Central Africa, it fell on me to be here. So greetings and congratulations from us, Dolapo. I'm going to keep the remarks really brief, just quickly highlighting where the gaps are and why women matter to infrastructure financing. I'll start with our World Bank Group job strategy, which has 3 overarching as pillars that we look at, but focused on 5 specific sectors that we consider to be job-rich sectors and sectors that have transformative impact in Africa. So simply put, under-financing women, especially in infrastructure, is bad economics for Africa. So at IFC and the World Bank Group, we see a paradox every day. So there's global capital that is abundant, but now, of course, we're looking internally at regional capital. Yet, up to 80% of African infrastructure projects fail before reaching bankability. I know Dolapo did that research, and that's why we're launching this today. And this is often due to, several factors. So you think about it, there's weak project preparation, rather than weak fundamentals. And this is where women entrepreneurs are also disproportionately filtered out. Not because their ideas lack merit, but because the system hasn't been designed. The ecosystem doesn't really support them to transit from ideas to bankable projects to attracting the financing that it requires. So at the World Bank Group and IFC, we really have put in place projects and mechanisms that are designed to combine policy with investment. Our approach is deliberately the policy plus investment approach. So we have upstream project development that help to move projects from ideas to bankable assets. We have blended finance and our de-risking tools that help to crowd in, inject concessional capital into the system and helps to crowd in private investors. And then we also look at capital markets and local currency solutions, because this is really one aspect that we also need to deepen within African markets to ensure sustainability beyond donor funding. So in Nigeria, this comes to life, for example, through one of our projects that we call the DARES platform. It's DARES is the acronym for Distributed Access to Renewable Energy Systems, where as the World Bank, where a $750 million World Bank program is leveraging over $1 billion in private capital to deliver energy to 17.5 million people. I'm sharing the numbers so you know that Dolapo's work and Afara's work is enormous because it's contributing to all of this. And, our DARES platform, we're really proud of it because it has a strong focus on women-led SMEs. So complementing this, we also, we have partners that have helped to mobilize over $80 million in blended finance for off-grid energy companies to power economies and enable women-owned businesses to grow. Now, when you think about it, I've shared some numbers. I've talked about billions of dollars. But finance alone is not enough. And that is why we are building an inclusive infrastructure ecosystem. So we have some projects that we have designed for project preparation, including Infra for Nigeria, which is working directly with energy and infrastructure companies to embed gender inclusion into leadership, technical roles, and value chains, ensuring women are not just beneficiaries, but also builders of infrastructure. We have our Energy to Equal Africa, as well as our Shippers Africa programs. All of these align with the World Bank Group's Mission 300, which is looking at expanding electricity access to 300 million Africans by 2030, with inclusion at the core. Now, what does this mean for women entrepreneurs? The message is very clear. Women do not need to fit into broken systems. We just need to build those systems to support them to grow. So we are fixing the system, the World Bank Group, IFC, platforms like Afara, so that women-led ideas can become bankable projects, and bankable projects can attract scaled private capital. So in closing, I think I have said everything that I said to emphasize that Africa's infrastructure gap is not just a financing challenge. It is also a leadership and inclusion challenge. If we want infrastructure that delivers growth, resilience, and jobs, we must finance the people who understand communities and can build for the long term, and that's Africa's women. So Afara, for us at the World Bank Group, Afara represents exactly the kind of pipeline Africa needs. Getting prepared founders, credible projects, and partnerships that move capital into impact. And if we get this right, we don't just close the infrastructure gap, we also unlock inclusive growth at scale. We move from pipes to pipelines. And this is where Afara again comes in. So on behalf of the World Bank Group, again, I say congratulations, Dolapo, and congratulations to the Afara team. Indeed, we cannot close Africa's infrastructure gap with only half of its talent. And on that note, I close my remarks and hand it over to the team. Congrats.
Thank you very much. Can we please give her a round of applause? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you very much for your remarks, Adori. And thank you very much to everyone who's here. Thank you very much to the online community. Like I said, things are moving along really quickly. Everything's going efficiently, and we're very excited about that. Now, we're moving on to the... Thank you, Dolapo. So Dolapo had said to me, can we have a few minutes? I'm like, Jesus, I can't tell jokes. What am I going to be doing here for a few minutes? So thank you very much. We're moving along now, and to share the Afara vision and just generally the structure, what it's about, partnership opportunities and things of that nature, I'm going to invite the lady who's brought all of us into the room today. But before I do that, again, just listening to everybody talking about how women are women are fundamental to development and to making things grow. And I support that wholeheartedly. And I'm sure that everyone in this room believes that. That's why we're here, including the few gentlemen that have decided to join us. So thank you very much for your support. And I'm very excited to see what the future of Afara is and where Afara is going to go. And I'm very excited that I get to be, even if Dolapo has money tomorrow and she pays somebody to come and compare, I was the one that did the first one, the launch. So I'm very excited. Please, can you give me a round of applause? I'm very excited about that, about my role in making sure that this takes off. Without further ado, I would like to invite the lady of the hour to come tell us a little bit about this, what we're here for, and how we can be partners to this great vision that she has. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite Dolapo Kukoyi. Thank you. Please, a round of applause for her. Thank you very much.
Wow, good morning. I don't know how to say thank you. I don't know how much more to say thank you. And it's just, I think it's just an act of mercy, the mercy of God, that many who come to the room and be calling somebody, we are talking about something, not somebody. But I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for the show of faith, the show of trust that you and your organizations have put, behind this initiative. It hasn't been easy. But every time I think about this, I think about what it can potentially do for Africa. And most importantly, what it can do for the women. So I'm going to be sharing the vision today. And I'll try to do it quite quickly. Daddy, you'll be my timekeeper. And thank you so much for setting the scene. Bukola, thank you so much for setting the scene. And thank you, Adare, for setting the scene. Really, really sets the scene as to why we are doing this and what problem are we solving. As with anything, any initiative, any business, anything that you do, it's always one problem or the other you are solving. And just from a personal experience, I had thought that Lisa would be here by now, but this grew out of a conversation that I had with a female entrepreneur. And we had dinner, and it was an honorary dinner for someone. And I was just asking her, so what do you do? you know. And she said, oh, she used to kind of work in the infra space, but she's taking some time off. And then I started asking questions. So, you know, and she told me that what she did was she gave it a name that was really interesting, like someone who kind of like builds industries. And I thought, oh, that was very interesting. And for me, every time I see a woman in the space around infrastructure or energy, I'm always so excited because I have been in the space where I've been in rooms with only men. And I remember when I first started in transactions in power, and before your voice would even be heard, and not because they were trying to exclude you, but you were not there. You understand? You haven't been there. So, you know, I would ask questions, raise issues, and people would just turn and look at me and say, so who are you again? You know. And I can't even imagine at the time I started how it would have been for women who actually own businesses or trying to do projects. You can imagine what would have been. I mean, business is hard enough. Infrastructure is mega difficult. And just being a transactions advisor, every time some of my colleagues are here, and I remember then that every time they say, oh, you are going to work in Mrs. K's team, people used to run away. They used to be like, her work is too hard. So it's hard work. So I was having that conversation with her, and she told me something that kind of sparked things in me. And she said something like, this is what she wanted to do, but she didn't think she could do it because she didn't have a man to raise her. And something just went off in my head. You know, yeah, we were having that conversation at breakfast because after the dinner, because I was really interested in what she wanted to do. And she wanted to start a business to go back to a full-time job. So I thought, let's have breakfast. And you know, that statement it just kept ringing in my head. I said, why? Why? And for her, it was germane because of the enormity of what infrastructure entails. You know, so I always remember that conversation because then I was kind of like at crossroads and thinking about my what next. And that's what has led to the birth of Afara. Okay, so what problem are we solving? That was just a practical story. Okay. So I think Ada has talked about some of the details, and you will hear some even during the panel. But 2.5 trillion, we have a 2.5 trillion gap across Africa. If you look at the energy space, we have 600 million plus Africans without electricity, and 3%. So when you think about the deficit, and then you think about the share of that deficit that goes to women to be able to get them to contribute to the issues, is just 3%. 3% of infrastructure capital in Africa goes to women-led ventures. It's most likely a handful. If you look at that, it's most likely a handful. And the compounding thing, other compounding issues, is that female founders receive just about 1% of project finance across Africa. There's energy poverty that obviously, you know, when anything around poverty starts with the women and the children. So imagine that a sector that affects the lives of women and children, women are not able to influence it as much as they should. And then when you talk about projects, generally, I mean, even for the men, it's hard. You know, 75% of infrastructure projects fail to reach financial close. You know, and these losses, I mean, it's costing Africa 2 to 4% of GDP growth every year. See this morning now, it rained. Some people just stayed in their house. I mean, you should have seen what I swam through this morning. It's infrastructure. It's infrastructure. That you have roads, that you have drain, it's infrastructure. Something happens and everything shuts down. It's infrastructure. Let me not even go into communications and our data. It's infrastructure. So what's the vision? Next slide, please. It's simple, but it is very ambitious. And I remember having a lot of conversations with different partners. And when I reached the 1 billion, they'll say, are you starting? Are you starting a fund? Which one are you doing? Do you have that money? You know, but it's simple. To enable, support, and scale 50 female-owned businesses in Africa's energy infrastructure sectors over 5 years. I'm not saying that Afara will die after 5 years, but I have a 5-year target at the moment. And we are looking to support them to the sum of $1 billion USD. We want to build a pipeline of female entrepreneurs that will drive scalable, sustainable projects. They will foster innovation, clean energy, sustainable infrastructure, and climate action, and much more than that. Much more than that. Next slide. Why did I decide to do this? I think I've told you some of that, so I'm not going to go into much of this. This is still the problem. But let's talk about me. Why did I decide to do that? Why should I not just sit in my house and just do what I like? Or just get a 9 to 5, please? Or just do whatever I like? Why would I carry myself into this conundrum of a problem that has so many limitations? Next slide, please. One is that I've lived the gap. And I told you about my experiences just being a transactions lawyer. Over 2 decades, structuring energy and infrastructure deals. And there were constantly faces missing in the room. There were the faces of these female entrepreneurs. And when I would see one, I would be so excited. In fact, I would be happy to even do work for free, just to move you forward. So it just comes naturally to me. And I just think that it's just God's grace. It just comes naturally to me to just, see a female entrepreneur in this space and just, what are you doing? Okay, talk about it, advise, do this, do that, put your name out there. It's just been natural for me. But the other thing is that Africa cannot wait. I mean, we can't possibly continue like this. We can't continue like this. And it's not just Nigeria. I mean, Nigeria is a major part of the story. And if we succeed in Nigeria, the rest of Africa has a fair chance. And they have someone to look up to. The other thing is harnessing diverse strengths. We are talking about women a lot. But it's not about women's lib. It is that infrastructure, there's a deficit, there's a gap, and we need all the resources we can get. We need men's brains in the room. We need women's brains in the room. So we are very happy to work with men. But we need more women who sit at the table and take the decisions. Just the same way men do. And why is that? Because when women sit at the table and make decisions, they pave the way for other women. They should. And the Afara woman will pave the way for other women because that's how she will start to think. Because the Afara woman will be someone who is impactful and not just focused on profit. And you will know that that's how women are somewhat wired. It's always about, because women kind of are nurturers, it's a natural for you to channel them this way. So we are not even saying that, in fact, we want the men to be supported. But we too, we need support so that we can bring our own strengths to the table to contribute to this problem, that we have, this challenge that we have, and contribute to our economic development. Then there's the multiplier effect, which I've kind of spoken to. I mean, when we build infrastructure, entire communities transform. You will notice women who are in the clean energy space, they do it a little differently. Just check. The ones here, they are not many, but they do it a little differently. There's always something about the community that they're impacting. They never really see it as first as profits. There's always it always starts with, I want to meet a need, I want to take care of something. And we want to be that bridge that will move women from potential to project, from vision to financial close. One of the things that we expect from our cohort members is that if you commit to the cohort, you must be able to mentor 2 women in the space within the next 3 years. Because we want a multiplier effect. So this is not about you and your project and your business just growing. It's about you paving the way. You know how it is. It's always easier when someone has walked a road. When someone has walked a road, you know you can do it. And then we want the women who have walked the road to be able to come and tell the women that they can do it. What we want eventually is that we want these women to also form their own club. There are many clubs. We want them to form their own club so that when people need access, the women who have gotten access can say, go to this one, go to this. And because she's opened doors and she's proven things, they will listen to the other person coming behind. So just to give you, it's more than just putting women in a room and teaching them things. It's empowering. So, Jadi, this was 5 minutes, Abi. Okay. So what kind of projects do we look at? Next slide, please. So we would look at greenfield projects, basically new projects, new builds, whether someone is acquiring an operational asset. We'll look at concessions, basically women who are involved in these things. We'll look at brownfields of different kinds. We'll look at shared divestments for funding investments in projects. We'll look at funding for projects that have some kind of proprietary or innovative component. Next slide. Next slide talks about our priority sectors. So these are our priority sectors. I'm not going to go into them. And they are not limited because we're also looking at housing as well. They are not limited at all. We're even looking at softer bits of infrastructure that enable trade happen. So if you have something that's innovative and is infrastructural and is developmental, please speak to us. The other thing is, next slide please, is people often ask, at what stage should I be in? Is this for startups? Is this, for more mature projects? At what stage should you be in? And our answer is this: we would focus not on startups, although we want to be a pipeline for startups who have gone a certain level to then join us. But we are focused more on women who have identified what they want to do. So you've identified it, you have a business plan, you have a project plan, you've probably done some project development work. So you are not at the place where you are kind of still guessing, what should I do, what should I not do? That would be for the incubators. We want to accelerate. Or you've done something at a small scale and you want to, scale up. Or you have a project where you've done your project docs and then you need to move to the next level. Maybe you need some engineering work done. You need some ESG studies done. You need something to push your project forward. And so the reason why we ask this specifically is because you all know what's going on in the world. Funding for projects and development finance and donor funding is drying up to this side from the West, which again means that we need to look inwards. And in looking inwards, we need to strengthen ourselves as well. So by this video, I'm also calling on the African banks because it's time for the African banks and the African institutional investors to start to look at this very seriously, and pay attention to this. So we want people who have gone some road, not necessarily at advanced stages, but clearly what you want to do, so that we can support you with specific project support, apart from the learning that you get. Next slide. So what's our business model? So it's capital access at the very top, but for everything that we do, it leads to capital access. So there's awareness and outreach, our immersive program, and I'll tell you a little bit about that, Lisa, learning and mentorship, then the project support that we provide, all leading to access. So I'm going to give my colleague, Wanni, a few minutes. I'm already out of time. And thank God my panelists have, I think we have all our panelists now, to come and talk about the curriculum. Just very briefly. Wanni, you have like maybe 2 minutes.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. I will just quickly walk us through the curriculum. It's broken into 3 phases. Okay, and so we have the foundation and diagnostics, which the output they're going to be getting after 2 months is they would have their strategic growth plan. And after the second phase, where it's built for skill and bankability, the output would be getting investment readiness park. And the third phase would be investment readiness and execution, which at the end of that phase, they would have their investor ready pitch deck. Please, next slide. And so through the course of the 6 months program, they would have 2 deep dive sessions every month. They'll have an expert session monthly. They'll also have pair sessions. They will be mentoring one another. And so the mentorship goes on throughout. We have, for M&E, we'll be measuring their progress based on their revenue growth, partnerships secured, capital readiness, operational milestones, and securing financing. Please, next slide. And so for our faculty, we have Jumoke Delano, Chinekuduru, Audrey Jo Ezibo, Funke Okbeke, Doyin Pierce, Fumi Ogwe, Rolake Akikube, Bejo Adebajo, Dr. Helen Emore, Dr. Tunji Shobodu, and Amy Jadisimi. Okay, so the project support, essentially through the course of the 6 months, the participants would get expert support across transaction structuring, legal and financial advisory, project management, ESG, technical guidance, fundraising, and feasibility and market studies. Please, next slide. So far, we have 130 applications. Interestingly, we've had only 28 people complete the application. And if you go through the application, you see that we have a lot of men applying. I would like to encourage and it's a women-focused program, but we have men also applying. So we would like for women to apply. If you know someone who should be a part of this program, or if you're seated in the room and you believe that you benefit from the program, please apply and encourage women in the infra space or energy space to apply. If you need help with the application, the team we're here, we're available, and we'll put you through on how to go on that. Thank you very much.
Are they all across from Africa? I'm just curious to understand what the geography dynamics looks like. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. Excellent. It's not only Nigerians that we've had apply. We've had people from Malawi, we've had people from Kenya, we've had people, well, in Nigeria. And we've seen applications from Burundi. We've seen applications from Côte d'Ivoire. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. We have one more. The last one.
No worries, because we are totally out of time. But yeah, Nina is seated there. So Wanne is our head of curriculum and programs. Sorry, I didn't introduce her properly. Can you come forward? Nina, you're going to do this with me, standing with me. So that I can do it very quickly. Next slide, please. Apologies, we didn't mean to show personal information. That was not the intention, because I think a bit of personal information was showing there. So next steps on the cohort. We plan to extend for another month to allow those who could, because we want to really get to know you. So that form was quite extensive, even though we were hoping not to make it difficult, but for us, this is serious business, so we wanted to be able to know them more and what they are doing. So it takes a bit of time to fill. So we will extend for a month, then we will do onboarding with the people we select. Remember, we are doing 10 women a year. So it's not meant to be, but it's in parallel. So what we will do is, we will have a selection of women who are exposed to knowledge. But we then have 10 women who we select to give project support to, because we won't be able to extend ourselves, and it depends on what we are able to raise in terms of sponsorship and funding. So we will then do onboarding, interviews. There will be pitch sessions. So there will be pitch sessions. There will probably be pitch sessions before the cohort starts, and then after, where they come and actually pitch projects. So we are looking at 6 months. Next slide, please. Now, Nina is our head of partnerships, so she's going to talk a little about the partnership ecosystem. And a lot of you in the room have been invited, because not to come and hear the gist of what Dolapo is doing. It's actually because each of you here was selected for a reason. You're selected because you play a part in the ecosystem. So please, as she talks through that table, just find where you are, including those online. Just find where you are. We didn't just invite you to come and hear what she's doing. It's actually because you have a part to play.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here. I'll quickly run through our partnership ecosystem. So essentially from what you have heard us talk about, especially by the curriculum, you can see that we're very extensive with what we're doing and how we're training our program participants. So our ecosystem is made up of funding partners, people who are providing technical assistance, ecosystem enablers and advisors, and legal practitioners. So what we're trying to build is an ecosystem where we have banks, venture capital, private equity partnering with us. We also have some people who have come on board, like Get Invest and the Kingdom of Netherlands as our technical partners. We also have associations like WIN, Africa Food Change Makers, Clean Tech Hub, and our WEAF. And we also have those who are supporting us with even curriculum-wise, with technical, financial, ESG advisory, product development, market strategy, and the whole lot. So the next slide, please. Yes, so a breakdown of what we need from partners. Of course, the first is the program itself and the funding of our platform, the Afara Accelerator program itself. So what it covers, funding to run the first cohort of Afara Accelerator. We will also require funds to develop and launch the Afara LMS platform, which hosts the Afara Accelerator curriculum. It is currently running, so if you're interested, you can just go ahead to check out the afaraaccelerator.org website, which can show you what we're doing right now. We also have technical and project support partners. So these partners will be supporting us to cover or subsidize consulting and advisory support for cohort participants. So we're really going to be going in depth into how we're supporting our participants in accessing this $1 billion finance over the course of 5 years. We're also partnering with those who are able to support us with access to expert legal, financial, or technical ESG advisory. And of course, capacity building and personalized coaching to bring projects from feasibility to bankability. And the last but not the least is capital and ecosystem access. So if you know someone or you are the someone, we are looking to connect to catalytic funders, investors, DFIs, and banks. We're also looking to partner with those who are able to support to create investment readiness pipelines. So for example, Get Invest you saw that on our previous slide. That is an example. And introductions to aligned organizations and syndicated funding partners. So if you have any idea of anyone who is able to provide that support to us or able and willing to partner with us, we are really interested in getting to know them. The next slide, please. Yes, you can contact us on any of those emails or phone numbers, but you don't have to wait till then. We're here now, and we're very much available to talk. So please, I'm very happy to speak if you have anyone or you are looking to partner with Afara on this milestone event. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Nina. Please, now you guys, between Dolapo, Nina, and Wane, a round of applause. Thank you very much. What has been said by the ladies. But doesn't Nina's voice just make you want to write her a check? Because I'm standing there, I'm listening, I'm like, if I had money, I'd write her a check right now. Like, her voice is just so soothing and just very calm and very you have this money, bring it. But a few things that I picked, with all seriousness, this is a daunting task, and it's only someone like Dolapo that I know that would wake up and decide that, you know what, my life isn't difficult as it is. Let us just make it more difficult by doing something like this. But it's something that, honestly, I'm sitting here and I'm listening and I'm thinking, it's challenging, and I think it's something that we can all take away where we say, what difference can I make? Like, life has to go beyond, I've got a great job, I'm living my dreams. How do I give back? What else can I do? So having said that, I would like to ask, like Nina said, and I would just reiterate, for everyone sitting here, there's a reason why you've been invited. There's a reason why you're here. You're all in positions of influence in whatever organizations that you work with or whatever organizations that you own. And I would just like to ask that between now and the end of this year, make a pledge to yourself to say, how am I going to support one woman-led organization? And there's no better place to start that pledge or to fulfill that pledge than by supporting the Afara initiative, right? Because someone's taken the time to say, you know what, I'm going to go out on a limb to make this happen. So if you have any influence, if you have any opportunity, if you have the ear of the person that makes the decision, make a pledge to yourself today and say, you know what, I'm going to do what I can, whether it's, the support will be technical, whether it's financial, whatever support it is that your organization can do. I think today and now is a great time for us to, to commit to making that pledge. And then the second thing that I would like to say is that the men have audacity. Haba, they've put it clearly, women-led initiative, women should apply, but the men would apply. Now, if it was reversed and they had said men only, I promise you, I can almost guarantee that no woman would apply. And see, that level of audacity is what we need for 2026 and going forward. I don't know if there's a song, if you guys know the song that says, I will cut my coat oversized this year. Yeah. I woke up this year and I just said, you know what, this is my motto for this year. The rooms they've told me that I can't enter, I'm just going to go. What's the worst that's going to happen? So for all the ladies, I don't know, all the online community, anyone who's thinking of applying, who hasn't applied, who thinks, it's a bit much, this is the time. If they call something for women and men will wake up in the morning and say, today, my job today is to apply, then there's no reason why the women shouldn't apply. Now, without further ado, we're going to switch things around just a little bit. And just to let everybody know, we started a bit late, but we're going to make up for time, and we're going to leave and as at on schedule. We had just a couple more things to do before we get to the vote of thanks, so please hang in there and stay with us as we quickly conclude this. So we're switching things around just a little bit. We're going to have a panel session now, and then we're going to have just a very short conversation with Dr. Tunji Shobodu on, interestingly enough, leading with audacity. So you see that thing about men and audacity is very real. But before we go to that, we're going to have a quick panel conversation, and I'm just going to invite the panelists quickly to join me on stage here. So we're having a very quick panel conversation on the state of infrastructure financing in Africa, creating funding opportunities for women. And to join us on stage to have that conversation is, So I'm just going to skim through bios, again, just to save on time, but I promise you it's a very impressive list of people. So we have Rolayo Ahibe, is a Senior Vice President in Global Financial Institution, responsible for financial institution sales in Nigeria and Ghana. She's an award-winning manager, and she's in the technology-based solutions for SMEs, corporates, and public sector institutions. She's a graduate of Hall with a BSc in economics and an MBA from the United Kingdom. She is one of the few female senior vice presidents in the banking sector functioning at the intersection of driving business growth through leveraging digital technology and engaging the technology ecosystem. I could go on and on and on, but ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Rolayo Ahibe. Please, thank you. Next to join us on the panel is Chineku Duru. She's the Senior Vice President and Principal Counsel at the AFC, Africa Finance Corporation. She's a highly accomplished corporate legal executive with over 18 years of experience, specializing in international transaction advisory, infrastructure financing, debt capital markets, derivatives, and corporate governance. Throughout a long tenure at the AFC, she has risen through various key positions including serving as Associate Vice President and Lead Counsel. Can we put our hands together for Chineku Duru, please? Thank you. Thank you. We have Oluwatobiloba Ogunbanjo. She's the Strategy and Funding Advisory Associate. I think Senior Associate now. Let's see. Please, can we give her a round of applause? And this is special to me because we work in the same organization. For the All On Hub, an off-grid energy impact investment company established by Shell. In her current capacity, she leads the development of the All On Innovation Ecosystem, a strategic program funded by the Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet, GIAP. Her core mandate focuses on preparing green infrastructure ventures for capital deployment, providing transaction advisory, and organizing expert finance panels to scale renewable energy startups across Nigeria. So a round of applause for Oluwatobi Ogunbanjo, please. Thank you very much. Just take a seat anywhere here. We have Boluwasokpe Ogboye. She's a clean energy finance expert, investment readiness advisor, and the founder and principal consultant of the BOFA company. A very interesting name. Commonly abbreviated or referenced as BOFACO. She operates Fundraising Clinic Africa, an initiative dedicated to empowering social impact companies, climate tech ventures, and African startups to overcome capital limitations, construct funding pipelines, and secure institutional investment. Please, a round of applause for Boluwasokpe Ogboye. Oh, finally, a gentleman. We have Oluwatoyin Olubake. He's the Chief Investment Officer at Catalyst Fund, where he's responsible for the investment team and function. He brings over 17 years of experience working across the financing value chain. His primary focus is to bring the best out of innovative entrepreneurs solving fundamental problems by enabling them to build thriving businesses that deliver lasting superior value to their investors, organizations, customers, communities, and environment. I could go on, but he has a degree from the University of Nottingham in the UK, and his degree is in mechanical engineering. Please, a round of applause for Oluwatoyin Olubake. And last but not the least, we have Adori Udechukwu. Oh, she's not on the panel. Okay. All right, so I believe that our panel is complete. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for them as they come and discuss the matters of rising. Oh, and of course, there's Dolapo. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, but you all know Dolapo. Please welcome Dolapo to the panel. Okay.
Interesting days. And I think before I start, I just want to say, gathering the knowledge on this panel could have only been a miracle. As in, it just fit together. So when we were thinking about, okay, what do we do? And I thought, okay, maybe a finance panel. And I'd been speaking to a lot of people here. And I just thought, okay. And I've been reaching out, maybe I started really seriously reaching out to them on this panel maybe a week, 2 weeks ago. And somehow they all gladly obliged. And they are extremely busy people. I think, Chineku, how long have we been talking? Like 3 months. Chineku, I don't even think we met physically.
I think we met
once. Yeah, but please give them a round of applause. Thank you so much. So grateful. I have slides, but I'm very unlikely to talk through them. I was going to use them to set the scene, but I think we have run out of time, and I know that there are lots of people here who have, a number of our panelists have to go. So I'm going to start from the man who is blessed among twin. And we'll do for all our panelists to basically talk about their roles. When I say roles, I mean we are talking about women entrepreneurs investing in energy and infrastructure. You know, what role do you or your organization play in the space? 1.5 minutes each, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having us, and thank you for organizing this. So maybe I'll talk maybe I'll talk a little bit about Catalyst Fund and our mandate. So Catalyst Fund is an early stage venture capital firm. We focus on investing in and providing support to ventures, typically pre-seed. So, the early days of formation, they have a product, it's in the market, but it's all very early. We provide cash as well as a team to help the founders in building their companies. And we're focused on climate adaptation and climate resilience across Africa. And so, energy and infrastructure are a big part of climate adaptation and climate resilience. Now, the fund is female founded. Our founder and CEO is a woman, but we, not our investors, we have also set a target to invest in at least 40% of our companies to be either fully founded and led by women, or at least have women in the founding teams.
Doesn't that deserve a round of applause? Please clap well, because we need to access it.
Now, for context, at least in the venture ecosystem in Africa, the best the ecosystem has done in a year was 6% of the founders that attracted capital were women. And now it's tracking between 2 and 3%. We are not quite at our 40% target, but we are at 30%. So, still outperforming the market quite considerably. So at least for the first question, maybe to manage time, that's sort of what we do and how energy infrastructure and women are a core part of the way we operate.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Bolo Ashape, and I work with the fundraising clinic, which draws from my years of experience working in the donor sector, and where I always saw founders who couldn't really speak the language of financiers. And so over the last 3 years, that's kind of what we've done. Information in terms of the opportunities out there, but also helping and guide the conversations, making sure that when founders are in front of investors, they're speaking the language and then they get to close. And nothing makes us happier nothing makes us as happy as when we see a message from a founder saying that they got into the program, they got the funding, as it were. It makes it worth it. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Tobi Ogobanjo. I work for Olon Partnerships for Energy Access, simply known as Olon. Olon is an impact investment focused fund, and we focus primarily on clean energy, renewable energy. We invest in companies who provide energy access to unserved and underserved communities in Nigeria. Now to what we do, I would say we're the first, it's not, I would say, it's a fact, we're the first venture building hub targeted at energy-focused startups in Africa. At the Olon Hub, we provide catalytic funding to early-stage startups, and not just funding, because one thing we realized is that the sector is very nascent, and in order to get that pipeline of companies who are at the stage in which debt capital funds and equity capital players investors who want to invest in these companies, we understood that we needed to get these companies to a certain level. So we provide early stage companies with support such as CFO as a service, strategy support, operational support, technology advisory support. So under technology, we look at a company, we realize, okay, these people do not have a proper ERP solution. We help them to deploy it. We look at the technology gaps they have, software gaps they have. All of this we do across different business functions, because we understand that when investors want to do their due diligence and they see that there are a lot of gaps, and these gaps will usually come from the functional support areas of the organization. So these are things we've tried to do in terms of capacity building and capacity development of the companies we work with. And after that, usually companies would be in our pipeline for 1 to 2 years. some of them work. Those who develop hardware products and physical products, during that period, they work on their prototype development, and we help and encourage them till they get to the level where they can then attract funding to producing commercial quantities. We also design programs based on things we've seen or gaps we've seen in the sector. We design programs that then that address the various issues and challenges we see in the various portfolio companies that we manage. And of course, after a couple of periods, we then invest in the companies. As to what we're doing around supporting women, we're currently running a program with MasterCard Foundation and the Rocky Mountain Institute called Energizing Young Women in Africa. In agribusiness. This project started out just, this is the second one. It started out as just energizing women in agribusiness, and we found out that in a lot of communities, especially where you have agriculture, the women are the business drivers. And in order to double down on what we've seen, the impact from that, we thought that the next project that we're doing has to focus solely on women. So like they say, when you train a woman or you fund a woman, you're basically funding a family. And that's what we've seen, and that's what we're doubling on and improving on this year. I'll speak more to what we're doing for women during the course of the conversation. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, again. My name is this loud enough? Can you hear me? Yeah. Chireku Duru. I work with the Africa Finance Corporation, which is a multilateral development finance institution established by treaty. We finance infrastructure projects. Our mission is to provide pragmatic solutions to bridge the infrastructure deficit in Africa. So our focus is on Africa as a continent. Our key sectors are energy resources, natural resources, including mining, heavy industries and telecoms, transport and logistics, which includes airports, roads. So that's what we do in Africa. The way we solve this infrastructure deficit is by providing financing, and our financing is throughout the project cycle. From project preparation, we have a project development facility which we provide, towards origination, execution, we provide technical support, we also provide advisory services. Now, how do we support women? We don't have like a gender lens in terms of looking at projects, because our goal is to industrialize the African continent. But when we are looking at projects and there's a gender impact, it's of course very interesting to us. We finance some key women entrepreneurs like the Main One. Main One was one of our founding projects through Funke Opeke. So we will look at basically assess the project on a project basis to look at credibility, bankability, and then it then helps that when we are looking at impact, we want to see, okay, where is this project looking, what is it unlocking, and how many women is it going to support? So that's what we do. We look at it on a regional basis, but we also make a focus that at least where women support business benefit from our projects. Thank you.
Okay, hi, yes, good morning. Morning, everyone. My name is Rolayo Ahigwe. This is really loud. So I wear many hats, but I think I'm here. Can you hear me? I think there's a lot of feedback. Okay. So I'm here wearing the hat of Rising Tide. So I work in the finance sector, but that's not why I'm here. I'm here as a member of Rising Tide Africa. So Rising Tide Africa is a group of female angel investors with a focus on investing in female-led, female-funded businesses. For the main reason, as Dolapo said, we've just found that there's just a dearth of them in the market. So it's the gender-focused investment in angel investing firm. Well, should I say firm, organization of women. We're about 100 plus members right now across Africa. Started in Nigeria, but gone across Africa now. And to date, Rising Tide has been around for officially around about 6 years, thereabouts. And to date, we've funded over 30 businesses, over about $3 million to date. And there's also a fund that's been set up a startup fund, a growth fund for, again, female-led, female-funded businesses. Now, how do we do this? 5 main pillars: mentorship, investment, networking, education. And then obviously there's so many other things that come around it. Did I say 5? I meant 4 pillars. Why is that? Because we found that with many investors, they just throw money at a situation. But we found that with female funders or female businesses, it's not just about the money. There's a lot more that needed to go in terms of the mentorship, as I said, the networking, because women network differently, right? And then the education, what do you actually need for this space? So some of the things that development will do in the infrastructure space, you have someone in that space, how do you bring that education in place to make sure that the person, the business that's being funded is investable? So we found that there are many businesses that have good ideas but are not yet at the stage of being investable. So making the businesses investable. At the end of the day, we're not a charity. We're putting our money in, our hard-earned money in, and we do want results, and to get that business growing. So in essence, that's what Rising Tide Africa does. So I'm here representing Rising Tide as an angel investor.
Say to you that it's an interesting, very interesting and very engaging community. You have women who are very cerebral and are very committed to actually building, female businesses. Why did I make the panelists do this? I made them do this so that you can actually understand that apart from Afara, there are many other people doing different things. But also because if you are a cohort member or you intend to, you understand what the lay of the land is and what exists. Sometimes we are doing our projects not even understanding what exists in terms of where you can get what you require. And it's one of the reasons why I made them do this, so that you kind of know. And what we intend to do is that you can call Afara and say, please, I want a meeting with, and I have Chineku here. If you say I want a meeting with AFC, I will bother Chineku until she answers me. If you say I want a meeting with Olon is represented here. That's what we aim to do. Make these relationships actually produce something and get you into rooms. So, without further ado, I will start with the man who is blessed amongst women. Yes, Twain. Twain, when you look at your deal flow, AFC's latest infrastructure report talks about Africa holding 4 trillion in domestic capital. We have infrastructure projects, lining up. Of course, we have a huge deficit. When you look at your deal flow, what are you actually seeing women who understand markets best? If not, if you are not seeing them, if you are not seeing enough women, where are they? Where are they going? Or what's hampering them in your view?
So, maybe I'll start with saying that we are not seeing as many women in our pipeline as we would like, as founders, co-founders. I mentioned earlier that, so we've made 27 investments. Of the 27, like I said, 30%, so less than 10, have women co-founders. It doesn't mean, like in some situations, there are 4 founders, there's 1 woman. And I think there are only 2 of our companies that are all women founded. And 1 is a solo founder, so technically not all women founded. But the point is that there's definitely a disparity. And there are a lot of different things that could contribute to why. I'm always very mindful about speaking about perspectives that I don't experience, because it's easy for me to have my notions and they could be far off. But many years ago, when I was working with a different firm, this concept of inclusion was quite important to me. We're investing in solutions, and a lot of times the people being funded are not people who have lived through the problems that they are, receiving funding to solve. And I think that's a risk. It's not just about inclusion for the sake of what's nice. If you don't know, maybe you're really brilliant, but you don't know the context. Your product might be great, but your business model will probably not be great because there's a lot you have to learn. And I started to try and figure out how can we bridge that gap. And I thought the thing we needed to do was make sure that inclusion was a priority. And so I pushed and I fought, and it was accepted, and inclusion became a priority. And then I looked, and our pipeline had not significantly changed. And I realized it's not just the priority that matters. The way you process transactions will need to change, because different people from different contexts, their view of the world, their understanding of what needs to be done is not always at the same place. You have a lot of, trying to find the right phrase to use, you have a lot of entrepreneurs who know how to raise money, but they don't know how to build businesses. But because they know how to raise money, they get funded. Do you understand? And then you have a lot of entrepreneurs who know how to build businesses, but they don't know how to raise money. And that is a process issue. Because what you are filtering for is often a lot, especially in the venture context, it's a lot of how you make assessments is subjective, and it's about the people, because the business is not yet there for you to really assess. So it's an inherent risk, and it's hard to say it will be perfect, but you need to understand the gaps to start addressing them. In the same vein, I think somebody mentioned this, but women network different. So if you want to have a strong pipeline of female-led businesses, it might not necessarily be a call for applications, because as you pointed out earlier, call for applications for women-led business and men are tricking head inside. Do you understand? But call for application for male-led businesses, women will not trick head inside. So you have to understand, even if you don't understand why, you have to understand that, okay, these are things that are the way they work. Somebody else will figure out why. My own is to find results. So how do I now change my process? How do I change the way I source businesses to try and include more women? And what I find is that personal networks are critical, because it might not be that it's the call for applications on LinkedIn or whatever. It might be Rising Tide. It might be that I need to speak with other women who are investors, because somebody is more comfortable reaching out to them privately on LinkedIn or whatever than in another place. Who knows what the woman has faced the last time she reached out to a male investor, that she's just like, I beg, I don't want this wahala again. So there are a lot of those sort of nuances that have to be understood. So come back to the question, are we seeing the pipeline of women-led businesses that we want? Absolutely not. And we track this every week when we look at our pipeline. We're always trying to figure out how we can improve it. There's so much subjectivity that still gets layered on into our process that, increasing the top of the funnel, the things you want at the top of the funnel is extremely vital, because the percentage of things that we approve vis-a-vis, I said we've made 27 investments, right? We've reviewed over 5,000 individual opportunities to make those 27 investments. So you can imagine what that pass rate or fail rate looks like. We need to see so many more women-led businesses to end up, that they will be part of the few that we make. The solution is still work in progress.
Thank you. I mean, coming from a man, that he really does get it. He really does get it. And just to speak to this call for applications, so we decided to have a two-pronged strategy. Call for applications, but people who we know are in the space. Because some people will not apply. Some women will just not apply. But I'm going to Bolu, because Bolu deals with them every day. And it's a good segue to what Tony has said. Investors often claim that, the pipeline is thin. And as Tony has said, it is thin. But you work with these pipelines directly. So is it true? And is it that investors are not looking hard enough, or they are not willing to write the kind of ticket sizes we are looking at, or are there different standards being applied to women than men?
Thank you. So I don't agree that the pipeline is thin. I just don't think we're looking wide enough. I don't think you're pulling from all the different potential corners that you can get women-led businesses to participate. You're also putting barriers, as it were. Yes, there's a mental barrier, and I don't know why every human being feels afraid when they're trying something new, but it's only women that have been diagnosed with that's when you say, oh, you have imposter syndrome.
Yes.
I've never heard a man say, and they give us a diagnosis, as it were. There's nobody that doesn't feel that way. But I don't think they are casting the net wide enough, as it were. And I don't think you're actually coming to meet women where they are as well. Yes, we network differently. We network through communities. We network through conversations, as it were. But I don't think that's very different from how men network as well. When they go and play golf, when they go and play football, it's the same networking. It's just in a different setting. But what are the conversations? How is that information getting across to you, as it were? So, for example, when I worked on USAID, I saw a lot of opportunities come through my desk. And then I'll have conversations with people, or people will see me, and once they see USAID, it's where's the money, as it were. So I started a mini newsletter 10 years ago. Now, in communities that I'm in and in our own community, we share that information so you get it instantly and immediately. There's no how if you see an opportunity once, twice, that you don't immediately feel like maybe this is a sign for you to apply. So I don't think you're looking widely enough. I also don't think you're going to meet them where they are. So rejection as well. When any founder gets rejected, you're not actually getting concrete feedback on what it is that you've actually done wrong. You're not getting concrete feedback on if it is that your data just doesn't make sense, or your revenue model just doesn't work, or I don't understand how it works, as it were. And you're not giving feedback that you can go back and reorganize things and try again, as it were. So you're left out in the dark, as it were, or not in the rooms where you're actually getting the support that you need. Because sometimes it's a really small problem. So I understand where Toyin is coming from. I mean, you're getting, nobody will see Toyin walking with Catalyst Fund and not immediately want to pounce on him. So he can't give everybody feedback, as it were. But actionable feedback makes the difference.
It does. Thank you very much. Very useful, very useful. And I'll tell you a story. I was speaking to a female founder, and she told me she was in the middle of a process, and that she didn't get into the first batch of the process. And one of the things I asked was why. Well, she really couldn't identify why, because for me, what I expected was that she would get something written down. This is not working, this is working. And the reason why we were talking was because she had gotten a technical assistant facility, which was supposed to kind of help her raise financing. So that feedback would have been really critical because she was already getting technical assistance. And she couldn't really articulate why. So yes, I think Tony wants to respond.
So, not a friend, completely agree with her. Like I said, work in progress. I don't think we have figured it out, and therefore there are not enough women founders. It's not what I'm trying to say. I will say this though. I think that, generally speaking, entrepreneurs often don't put themselves in investors' shoes and understand investors well enough. And that makes a big difference in how you approach and how you engage. So for instance, with feedback, if you ask for feedback, you'll get it. That's generally the rule. No, in general, with investors. So my own is different. I've already made it a rule that we give feedback. So I stress my team out. Don't just say it's too early. We're a pre-seed investor. What do you mean by it's too early? Give context. If there's something that a business now, again, we won't do this. If you send us a cold pitch, we don't owe you feedback. We will let you know that we have passed, but we don't owe you feedback because it does take a lot of time. But if we take your time and have a call or we've engaged with you, then we do owe you feedback and we will give you feedback without you asking. So I'm not even talking about us. I mean in general, an investor has said no. okay, reach out and ask for feedback. More often, people will reach out and ask for an introduction, which is a harder thing to do. I don't know you. I've just passed on you. How do I then tell somebody they should consider investing in you when I'm saying I don't want to invest? Do you understand? But if you ask me for feedback, it's easier to give feedback. So that's one. Two, if you understand that investors have their own challenges, so the volume of deals they're seeing, they have specific things that they need to invest in. There's a certain level of putting yourself out there that is necessary. And maybe because of culture and experiences, it could be difficult for women, more difficult for women in general to do that than for men. Men here know all day, every day from everybody. So another no is not going to break its head. So maybe there are cultural things like that, but that tenacity is essential because, it's not about, for one, especially in the venture, people actually look for that because there's so much uncertainty as to what you're going to go through before you succeed. So I want to know that you have strong head. Do you understand? When life gives you 10 cocoa in a day, you say it's 15 that will stop me today. Do you understand? Not 10. That sort of thing. And these are all little signals that feed into it. There's also the level of ambition that you display. Again, I'm speaking specifically about venture. SME is different, but I'm speaking from the venture perspective. I don't want to invest in a company that wants to be the best in Lagos or even the best in Nigeria. I want you to come and tell me that you think you can be the best in the world. And then I'm now the one that will say, let's start with Africa. Do you understand? Because I'm looking for outsized returns. The nature of how I operate is that's what I want. Now, for good, women tend to be more prudent and pragmatic than men. But what it means is that in my context, it could often translate as not ambitious enough. Now that's not necessarily you don't have the capacity, and it's not necessarily that you don't have the ambition, but maybe because you're more pragmatic, you don't want to come and tell, you've not even started the business. How will you now come and tell me that you believe in 5 years you'll be the best in Africa? Do you understand? It's not rational, and understandably so. But if you don't sell it to me, you need to convince me that that's your ambition, that's your capacity. Just last week, a male entrepreneur, like I said to him that good business, I'm not getting world beater vibes. Do you understand? And so it's not about men or women, but some of these things, because of cultural differences or whatever, will weigh more in the favor of men than women. And it comes back to what I was saying about process design. It's because the design of the process, looks for certain features that now bring in an inherent bias. Now, the more aware you are of the bias, the more likely you are to try and find ways to address it. So rather than, if I'm speaking to a female entrepreneur, rather than expecting her to tell me, I want to do the whole of Africa, maybe I know I need to ask. Or maybe what I look for is, does she have the capacity? Does she have the appetite? Because there's a lot of headache. Being the biggest in Lagos is different from being the biggest in Africa. The headache is not times 10, it's times 5 million. Do you understand?
Okay, Tony, I need to round up on your response so that I can go to other panelists. But I think the point is made, and there are a lot of things. I would rather not call it ambition. I'd rather call it courage and audacity. And I think that because, and maybe this is me personally, I think that sometimes ambition can have its other parts. But I think courage and audacity for you to be able to, it takes courage and audacity for you to be able to say something that you have not even seen the full part of. So I choose to make it more courage and audacity for the women than ambition. But I definitely get what you are saying. And being able to understand women, being able to kind of understand the financiers is important. And that is one of the things that at Afara we want to help people understand more. So Toby, you actually, your hub has, you are actually in the business of dealing with startups and in a hub. And people say that hubs and accelerators have a conversion problem. So high completion rates, low funding outcomes. You have plenty of people in the hub, and when I don't know, what does your M&E look like? What does it say as to how many people have accessed funding? So when you look at the women particularly who come through your program, if you have a lot of women. I see that you also have a female program. In the last 2 years, what percentage have you seen have secured meaningful investment within 12 months? And for the ones who didn't secure, what happened? You know, what happened to the ones who didn't?
Sorry, can you take the first?
So the first is, you know, when you look at women who have come through your program, yeah, in the last 2 years, what percentage, roughly, have secured meaningful investments? You know, and the ones that's within 12 months of leaving your program, and what happened to the ones who did not?
Okay, I would start by saying, I remember the first part of the question about how people are just in the hub and then they're not getting funding.
Yes.
Now, what we try to do is not to rush to give people money. We sit down to really assess the various functional gaps there are within the businesses we work with. So if someone approaches me and says, oh, we need XYZ, I look at you and I know that no equity investor is going to look at, they will probably just turn you down. And I think that that is where we are different from venture capitalists. Again, we try to be very realistic and pragmatic. I look at you and you want to raise, say, $500,000. I know that you can't raise it now. You cannot raise it next year. Your business is just not at that level. And we have a serious discussion and say, you need to fix this. We're looking at your financial accounts. They're not even well put together. So we get a KPMG to provide you with CFO as a service for 1 year. Get you to hire someone who is in finance who can shadow that KPMG person so that you have that part of your business well developed, and they help you prepare management accounts. They take you through how to do all these things on a quarterly basis, all the things you need, so that in 1 year's time, in 18 months' time, you know that with regards to everything relating to like financial due diligence, you have that sorted. We look at the legal aspect as well. How well structured are you? Do you have all the necessary incorporation documents? You want to move to XYZ markets? Do you have all of those things ready? We do that across, okay, what's your business plan? What are you looking, where are you looking to go in the next 5 years? And sometimes we talk to them and then we realize that this is not going to fly. What you are doing is probably an NGO type thing. It has no commercial viability. So we start looking at what market can you pivot into? What can you do? And I think it's very important for deployers of capital, people, investors, to be very frank with businesses who come to them. Because sometimes there's also that pressure of, oh, I have this target to deploy $20 million. So yeah, let me look for. And then in your mind, you know that, okay, I'll deploy this thing. I would have left this place in 6 months' time. The person that takes over from me will come and carry the beans I've cooked. People have that approach. But at all on, we try not to do that. What we're trying to do is to develop a strong pipeline of sustainable and very great businesses that investors can invest in. And so we take our time. So I wouldn't say we have a time frame of, 12 months. No, we don't do that. So we try as much as possible. We look at the gaps these businesses have. We run cohorts of these various programs on an annual basis. People go through them, say 1 year, but within that 1 year, we understand that they need some kind of catalytic funding. So we have technical assistance growth programs because you look at many of these businesses, you know a bank is not going to touch them. Equity investors are probably not going to look at them. Again, VC people in Africa, they are all fintech. Many people do not look at energy, yeah. So, and I would say that is also why we are the highest investor in the clean energy space in sub-Saharan Africa, because we're practically, I won't say the only ones, but major player. I think about 60% of funds deployed in this space comes from Olon. So yeah, we try as much as possible to ensure that capacity building wise, we do that for the business, and then we always want to look for a proof of concept. So take for example this year, we have the Off-Grid Challenge coming up second half of the year. For the Off-Grid Challenge, we can give companies up to, I think, $1 million, $2 million in form of capital. And then there are early stage startup companies who are looking to join the Off-Grid Challenge. I'm like, I know you are not there yet, but we can give you a TA grant or a performance-based grant of, say, $50,000. Do a proof of concept. We see the impact report, we look at the returns, and then that would make for a compelling story. So when you're applying for the Off-Grid Challenge, you say, oh, I received XYZ from Olon. I did this. With this amount of money, I was able to achieve economies of scale. Last year, without this funding, this was what our revenues, this is what we did in form of revenue. Now, this is what we're doing with this TA grants we've gotten. This is what we've been able to do in form of revenue. We employed XYZ people, blah, 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 blah. So that tells a very good story. And then when they're able to get, with that, then we can present them to our investment team or other companies within the space that we like, Persistence, Norfund, any of these people to say, oh, we have this good company. I think it will make, we can then present them for people to invest in them.
I think, thank you so much, Toby. I think she deserves a round of applause. And the reason I say so is that there's something about that process of getting investment. And oftentimes, investors will look like at your journey. That's another thing. So it's about, at the end, raising money for your business, building a sustainable business. But your journey is also important. So if you've been through a hub, I mean, with what she said that the hub does, then it means that people know that you've gone through some kind of trusted process. So they are more likely to kind of look at you. So the power of these processes, and I mean, by the time you've gone through a hub and then a Tony invests in you, you have a story. So with infrastructure, what I've noticed is that it's that compelling story again that financiers look at. And just a good segue to Chineku, maybe she can tell us a little bit about that. How does AFC, I mean, when you think about AFC, they only go for the big deals. They don't do small deals. They only go for the big deals. So how do you look at gender lens in providing financing to projects? Is it a key criteria? If not, how does AFC provide support to unlock capital for women-led businesses?
So when I was listening to her, I was saying that, okay, this pretty much, can you hear me very well? Yeah, this pretty much sounds very much like our project development facility. So like I said earlier on, because our sectors are very capital intensive, like if you want to do a power plant, right, and it's like how many gigabytes, right, or gigawatts, it's how much money, right, we're talking about. Our smallest ticket size is $25 million. So yes, because it's capital intensive, you also don't find a lot of women in that space. I've been at AFC now for 16 years, and when we started talking about Afara, I went digging, like, okay, how many projects, women-led projects, have we financed? And we could only come up with 3. And 3, one was Main 1, and then we know that Funke Okweke's Main 1 literally revolutionized the broadband industry. We had Funke Oshibodu, who was the leading power distribution company doing the PHCL liberalization and privatization. And then we then have another lady in Uganda who was trying to build a 60,000 refinery, barrels per day refinery in Uganda. And those were the only 3 projects. Wow. So you wouldn't find a lot of women in these spaces. So to Tony's point about where sometimes it's thin, and it's thin also because of the sector. You will find women more in sectors that people like AFC would not, be doing. So we don't look. So that's why we don't have a gender lens. However, what we then try to do when we are looking at projects is that we always ask 3 key questions. What is the impact? And impact being, what is unlocking by AFC investing in this project? How many jobs are going to be created? What's going to be the percentage of workforce, right? We recently financed a power project a renewable power project in Egypt. One of the things that we ensured there was we had 37% of women in leadership in Lekela. When we're doing a mining project in Sierra Leone, and actually more than 30% of the workforce in this mine are women. So when we go there for site visits, you see women driving the tractors. So through our impact, the impact of our project, that's how we monitor, okay, how are women businesses being supported? How are they benefiting from the financing that we're giving? Yes, the sponsor itself will probably be a man because there's a lot that goes into it. You know, you're getting your licenses. Sometimes the project will take you about 2 years in development before you actually get into financial close.
Sometimes 5.
Sometimes 5. Like this mining project, I think we started looking at it in just before COVID, and we're going to hit first gold in December. So it took us 3 years for development, 3 years to raise financing for it, and this was a $350 million project, and AFC can't do it alone. So we also work with partners. We have a team called our Capital Mobilization and Partnership Teams, and I think this is probably room for where we can collaborate, because one thing we really want to do is we want to support the women, but the projects are actually being driven by men in the sector because of how capital intensive it is. But there are ways that the women can also benefit. So if we have like, you know, hubs or, you know, businesses come together and then it meets our ticket size, even if it doesn't meet our initial ticket size for a business, we do have a project development facility of $5 million that we give. But it's always tied to milestones. So usually for that project development facility, at least for the Uganda project, what we did is that we put it in milestones for like maybe $1 million or $2 million, and it goes towards third-party costs, so like your feasibility studies, your legal advisory, things to basically get the project into project readiness. And because we developed it, we have an obligation to also invest when it gets into, when it's ready to attract financing. So we then move it over to our investment team, and our investment team will look at it. Obviously, we would have developed the project according to our own requirements. So we look at impact. We also ask ourselves also, what's the paradigm shift here? What would happen to this project if AFC was not going to invest in? And that's where we back sponsors. We also have a policy of where we want to back sponsors and crowd in additional capital. So we do that by also giving guarantees. So you could see a project where ordinarily maybe people would not want to look at it, but if you know that AFC is one of your partners or one of your financiers, for every $1, we're able to crowd in an additional $5. So those are questions, you know, we'll ask ourselves. And of course, we're a company. We have shareholders. We have to be accountable to them. The project has to be bankable. And that's where then the legal and investment team comes in. Okay, how can we take this project from inception to bankability? What are we looking at, because we want to make returns? So those are the 3 key questions that we look at. But it helps if the sponsor is a woman. It's more encouraging. You know, you're like, okay, a more reason to back it up. And what we've also started doing is look at risk allocation and returns from a different lens. We're now trying to say, okay, well, this is the impact that we're going to make on this project. So alongside financial returns, maybe the pricing will not be as commercially interesting as we would have liked, but because of what we're going to unlock. So there's a story there, because, you know, as an institution, we also raise financing. You know, we're not financed by shareholders. We're not financed by government. We're financed by shareholders. We're financed by going to the market to raise capital. And we also have to find ways of unlocking capital. So there's a pool of impact investors there who would want to invest in AFC because they have this impact money in their money that they are supposed to deploy. So we also have to show projects that, look, if you are an impact investor and then you want to give money to like women-led businesses, AFC is also incentivized to support such projects. So we use it as an impact story. So there's also room for us to use this to unlock capital, right? Additional capital. Even if it's on the smaller scale, then that goes into like our PD facility, because the PD facility is small. We also do like, it's not really technical assistance. We don't do grants, but we do what we call like blended financing. So we would work with some concessional financiers, bring in AFC's own financing and give you a blended rate, which reduces the financing cost for the project and also encourages us to say, you know, to expand. So I like what she said, where maybe we're not casting our net wide enough. And I agree, because if we're looking at projects from the traditional risk allocation, credit assessment, we wouldn't reach what we are trying to reach. So we have to be able to look at it differently, like, okay, what am I balancing here? Am I balancing impact with financial returns, and what does that give me? If you're going to get more impact, less financial returns, but that impact is also going to unlock capital for you in a different way, That's probably how you want to look at it. So because right now, at least if you look at our infrastructure play report, and recently the CEO has actually said to us that infrastructure cannot be an isolated class. You cannot just be doing one road in Nigeria and one port in Ghana. We have to start looking at it regionally if we do want to industrialize the continent. So taking a regional approach also means that you need to find those businesses and find to see how can they all be connected, right? By doing a railway somewhere, there could actually be a women-led business there that is supporting the workers in the railway, or that is providing the power or something there. It's small. It's not something AFC will do on its own, just that one. But because it's tied to the port or it's tied to the railway, you begin to see how all these ecosystems, come together. So we're taking a continental approach. We're taking a regional approach, and then, that I think will also expand our lens, expand the way we look at projects, and then see how we can unlock value for not just the continent, but also for the corporation as well.
Thank you so much, Nico. I thought that was so insightful. I found myself writing, and particularly because she talked about, the fact that traditional finance will not do it. I think this is what led to us having things like venture capital. Because you can't, even as a lawyer, I found that you couldn't do venture capital deals or angel investment is the way you do the typical M&A, because it's not the same. They are not at the same level. And maybe that's how we now need to look at gender financing. We need to look at it differently. So when we assess projects, we need to be looking at that lens. And you talked about some really, really interesting things about, that additionality to a big major project, but a woman is in there. And there's something that we have been thinking about, which is how do we even get companies to start to put in some kind of criteria to say that, okay, maybe there's a part, maybe it has to do with logistics, and to say that we want female-led or female-owned women to procure for this. That way you are building a pipeline for women who are in that space to see the opportunity to do this, where you kind of lower the barriers a bit. Not that it's tokenism, but you are lowering the barriers to give those women an opportunity, because if you are procuring and they're able to do it, they will do it once, they will grow their business, they will do it again. It gives them those chances. So I'm coming to Rolayo, and it's almost fortuitous because she's at the very start. I mean, angels are like very close to friends and family, because when you start anything, you first start with your friends, family, then if you find an angel. And a lot of us here are angels in one way or the other. There are many, we have funded people's businesses, whether it's someone selling something, that's what angels do. So Rolayo, to you, let me get your question. There's well-documented finding that women-founded companies generate more revenue per dollar, yet they still get less money. So how as an angel, do you think we should interrogate our own decision-making process for bias? What does funding on merit actually mean? And when can you discern that the playing field is not level?
Okay, great question. I think one of the first things we need to interrogate, as I said, is what is merit? Because when you say merit, it means that there's a benchmark and you must meet that benchmark to qualify. So the question is, what is the makeup of that benchmark? Who sets that benchmark? Because so what are the markers, right? What's the criteria for that benchmark? And many times, some of the things that Tony said in terms of bankability, the courage, the audacity, whatever it is you want to call it, if you use certain criteria as a benchmark and you have a business proposition, and typically, let's call it what it is, at angel stage, what you're funding is the founder, because the business is not yet there. So you're looking at the founder. And if the founder doesn't meet your, ChatGPT type benchmark or whatever it is, capitalist or whatever it is looking for, then you think, oh, then this doesn't work. But that's not the case, because what is the makeup of that benchmark? And if you look at, I'll go to segue a little bit in terms of what you mentioned about the unconscious bias. So if your bias is that, okay, for you to qualify, you must have had X years of experience, you must be doing this, that, and the third, you must have achieved this, you want to blow up the whole world, you want to go to the moon, forget the earth, we're going to the moon, and all that, and the person is not giving you that, you're just thinking, okay, automatically you have a criteria that mentally, even if you don't have a spreadsheet that you're ticking off, that this person, you're just disqualifying, tick, 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 and before you know it, like, no, it doesn't work. However, you could have a very valuable, tangible business in there. So the questions have to change, right? And at this early stage, what you're questioning is, one, the character of the founder, very important, and like what you said about resilience, tenacity, because you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what life is going to be like on the business side. So what is the character of the individual? What is, apart from tenacity, the integrity? So at early stages, because by the time you're a fully formed business, you have governance structures, you have certain things that constrain certain behaviors. But at early stages, you find that it is what the person gets, before you know it, you end up funding someone's lifestyle, which is not the intention. So what is the character? What is integrity? What is the capacity? Right? What capacity does this individual have for growth? Does the individual have the capacity to learn and to change? Because again, the thing about coming at the business in the early stage is like taking a baby from a mother. The mother thinks this baby is the most beautiful baby in the entire world, right? The parents think this child is the most beautiful. And so if you try and tweak something or suggest something, that because you can see that, yes, the idea, there's merit to the idea. However, if they could just tweak it just a little bit, then it will scale. Because remember, at the end of the day, you're an angel, but you're an investor. So don't forget the investor part. You're not just an angel, you're an investor. You're putting your money in something and you want money back. And we found that not everyone, takes that feedback, right? And even at the very early stages, because they're married to the way the business should run. This is what it looks like, and this is what is going to change the world. So how open is that person to change? How open is that person to scale? And how open is that person at this early stage to getting others in? Because there's another thing in terms of the courage and audacity. Sometimes the courage is letting someone else into your business, and not everyone is willing to do that. But to grow, you have to let other people into your business. So getting these things into the minds of the founders at the early stage, right, makes it easier further down the line. Because remember, at the end of the day, as an investor, you want to exit. And you want to exit ideally, with a markup, not a haircut, right? And so you know that somebody needs to come in and buy you out. That's the only way you're going to come out. Otherwise, you now become a shareholder in the business. If you want to, that's fine. But that was not the initial intent, right? So how do you make this business investable for others? Which means how do you make this founder and then also the team? So the questions you're asking, so for example, when we have our deal reviews, some of the questions we ask is, number one, is this a viable idea? Forget the gender. Is this business viable? Is this idea viable? Will it scale? Does it have the capacity for scale? Some from day one, no, this is niche business. And there's nothing wrong with niche. You could do some niche business, right? And it could be very good returns. Does this business have a capacity to scale? Number one. Two, is this the right leader for this type of business? So you're interrogating those questions. So it's not a broad scope. So you are going nitty-gritty. And then does this leader have the right team? Based on the pitch that's been given and based on what you see, is the right structure in place? And so those are three key questions that you ask before you now start talking about the returns. You look at the addressable market. Does this market actually exist? Right? So it may exist in someone's mind, but not in reality. Because remember, you're talking to independent people who have wealth of background, different diverse backgrounds. You can say this will work, this will not work. So we sort of interrogate a little bit differently. And based on at least a certain criteria, at least minimum 5 key criteria that the business idea must win. And if it does, then we now go to this next stage of doing the deal reviews, due diligence, and then now dig a bit deeper. And if it doesn't work, if you feel that, okay, this is a good idea, but the little bit of work comes in here. I mentioned there's mentorship, there's investment, networking, education. So now find out what is the gap, right? What is the gap here? And is it possible to help this founder close that gap, whether it's with the mentorship? And sometimes they say women are over-mentored. I don't think it's a woman thing. Sometimes, the founder, the job of a founder is to find something. You have a good idea. It doesn't mean you know how to run a business. It just means you have a good idea. So everyone needs help, right, in making that idea into a viable business. So is it mentorship that's required? Is it networking? Is it just opening the right doors? So we sort of interrogate a little bit different, right, and go a bit deeper, as I said, because you know that at this stage, the business itself is still an nascent stage. You want to give it the wings, right? It's when it has wings and they say, okay, it's going to fly or it's going to flop, but at least let's even get the wings to start off in the first place. Now see how far and how high it can fly. Some will work, some will not, as with every business, right? And but what I've seen is that the process of interrogating each business idea on the basis of a business idea, not how, switch your mouth if you can put it that way, not how, how much money you've raised. If you've raised money, fantastic, great, but what has that money actually done? right? So it's not about, I can do this, I can do that. What have you done? What have you done with what you have right now? And then what could you possibly do? And how are you doing it? Because that now speaks to sustainability, right, which is very important. So what I'm saying is that when it comes to the bias, it's there without a doubt. You know, there's systemic bias, but you now have to sort of unpeel the layers and go deep one by one and look at each business on the merit of that business and say, okay, this is now what's going to form the benchmark, right, for the types of business that we choose to invest in. And it may just so happen that with women, we now know that the extra gap, the extra mile we may go is, if we see there's a gap, it's not just thank you, bye-bye, it's here's how we can help you make it better. Right, so that I think is a difference that angel investing, specifically gender-led angel investing, brings into play that others may not.
I told you that RTA has really amazing women, and Rolaya is one of them. Really amazing women. I don't have time anymore, but I wanted to ask my panelists if I can take one question. It's okay. Any questions? Any questions? Not comments. Comments you can share when we are networking. Yes. Can we have your mic, please? Thank you. Thanks, Tony.
Yeah. Sorry. Thank you for inviting me here, first of all. And thank you for these amazing people. Yes, I'm architect Cecilia at Tohengwe. I'm a developer, real estate developer. I think you solved my problem. Yes, I see my solutions here. So I am very grateful to God for the opportunity of being here. Okay, so I actually need the services of every one of you. Yes, as you spoke, I was getting answers. And I'm glad. Okay, one, I'd like to make a comment before I ask my question. I've often heard from almost every quarter that my dreams are too big. Yes, and I'm glad to hear here that those are the kind of dreams that you're looking for. It's been a lot of struggle getting people to buy into the things that I'm doing because people feel they are too big, they're too big, they're too big. But it burns in me, and they've been burning in me for years, and I refuse to give them up. So now, I'm working on a multiple city development, serial city development from the scratch, from the ground up. And I'd like to know how these different avenues can help me build suitable structures and systems that will make it work. I always say that these dreams are far bigger than me. How I'll get them done, I don't know, but I know I'll get them done. So we, as an office, started with Benin City where we are, which I felt is easier to grapple with. And it's far behind in development. And there are a lot of, it's a very raw stone looking for finished work. So we're looking at doing multiple cities, satellite cities, because there's a lot of lack of development. So we're starting with one. We've gotten a JV done for 500 hectares of land. And we need to set structures and systems. We are not depending on government for anything. From the very start to finish is without government. The only thing we've done, we've reached out to government. We're in talks with the ministries, we're in talks with investment promotions. All we're asking for is give us CFO as your investment so that you get 10% of whatever we do forever. But we don't need your money. So that we have your support, that it's a PPP with government. That kind of setting. So how can we help to get this done? That's my question.
Thank you.
power, water supply, green, their green cities, everything's all in. And each one needs to have its own airstrip. So it's a huge, so how is it we have thought of starting with industry so that it will be economically driven. So industries will naturally attract other things.
Thank you. It might be difficult for me to give a really substantive answer as to how we can help, but maybe there are companies that we're invested in that could plug into this. For instance, one of our companies helps to fund solar equipment for small businesses and so on. So, they could help to defray some of the power costs and things like that. But the thing I think is more meaningful, and I was going to say, if I had a chance for a closing comment anyway, is, this happens with everybody, but again, maybe more with women than men. There's a tendency to seek permission and validation. And it's not inherently wrong. There are times when it's the appropriate thing to do, but there's a human bias to overdo it. Seek permission when you actually don't need permission. Seek validation when you need to just be courageous and take the risk. And so I wanted to say that we should be very careful about when we seek permission, how we seek permission or validation, and how we receive these things from other people. Somebody telling you your dream is too big may mean that it's too big for them, not for you. But if you don't interpret it the right way, you'll be discouraged. It might just be their own way of admitting, or more, this past me. Do you understand? But rather than saying that, it does be like, no, this dream is too big for you, and so just the way we receive and handle those things is quite important, because we end up getting discouraged or asking somebody for permission, then they say no, when we shouldn't even have been asking for permission, and it's quite important. So,
So I think you're in the right place, and I do hope you apply for the Afara program. I would say that a few years ago now, I think it was 2024, we internal research for one of the business delegations of one of the kingdoms or something, as it were, and it was on smart city technology. So what you can find is reaching out to the business department of all the different delegations, because the report was on the potential for smart cities in Nigeria. And we did across transportation, water, I think sanitation as well, and a bunch of other things as well. So they are looking out for opportunities that businesses in their country can plug into. So those are also pathways that you can look into. I can't say that I know much about infrastructure, but that's the exposure that I got. And I will just use this as my closing remarks, as it were. Dolakwa asked me to mention this. So we are putting, we've had conversations around the way women network, as it were, and the introductions. And so myself and the Lagos Climate Network, we're putting our money where our mouth is, as it were, and we're looking for partners as well. And we're hosting a deal room later on in the year, specifically for women in the energy and e-mobility sector. There's a lot of conversation that's happened today about, support, and women are just not there yet, but there are some women that are there yet. And so we're going to take recommendations from accelerator programs, from incubators, from people in the industry, and obviously anyone that's putting companies down, they're also putting their reputation down as well. And then even for the investors that we're going to have in the room, if you haven't signed a check to a female-led company, and you happen to be part of 2X Global, I'm going to report you. I'm not just going to invite you, I'm going to report you, as it were. So we are definitely looking for partners to ensure that that comes through. And we're starting with West Africa and then moving on to East Africa. But let's remove the barrier, as it were, of, the introductions aren't made, you're not plugging in, we don't have, my deal flow pipeline is thin, as it were. So it's going to be a deal room specifically. So if you're coming in for business. We're not doing another conference just to talk about women, is to put your money where your mouth is. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'll say for all on, I can't speak to say we would invest directly, but we already invest in companies who provide access to energy. So I'm sure if you go to our website, you see like a bunch of companies we've invested in
you can reach out to them when you're ready and then see how they can partner with you in maybe providing mini grids in the smart city you're building. Closing remark. Okay, one thing I wanted to say as I was preparing for this, I looked into our portfolio. Not like I didn't know this before, but it just further showed me. So currently, 20% of our portfolio are women-led businesses, women co-founded businesses, and 80% are men. And I was discussing with my colleague, okay, and then investments we made last year, 52% of the funds were given to female-led businesses. So think about it this way, we have what, 20% of the portfolio are female-led businesses, 52% of funds go to these businesses, 40% of our impact, electricity connections and all of this come from these businesses that just form 20% of the portfolio. So this to tell you that the women who come into the hub, they are highly qualified, they do get money. But what I would say is missing is that, and we had to dial back and we realized that the real issue, at least within our sector, is that it starts from like the tertiary level. You don't have, even when you have women in STEM, they probably would like to do things like advocacy. So you take within renewable energy, you probably find more women doing advocacy, policy, maybe even investments, compared to technical, you're out there being a developer, building solar projects. And I know we keep, not to drag to the, or just say maybe when we're advising women, because I mean, within the Nigerian context, there's always the part of family, having a supportive spouse, blah, blah, blah. And I mean, growing up, I thought that was not that important. But when you look at the data, you realize that these things are very, very critical. They look little, but they are very critical. Women are still getting permissions from their husbands to travel, to do X, Y, Z. How much more someone who is running an infrastructure business, ₦1 billion business and more, going up. And so these things are very important. So maybe advisory, one, we need to get more women into STEM. If you check mechanical engineering programs around the country, at least I remember when I was in school, there were just 2 women, probably even 1 in the mechanical engineering class. Civil engineering, 2 women. You have things like this. Women will probably maybe want to do other things that are not infrastructure focused. So we should be looking at how do we get more women to be more interested in this. So maybe we need to start partnering with universities, having some form of partnerships whereby incubator programs, even from that level, whereby we get women interested in joining and doing these sort of things. That'll be my closing remark.
So specifically, to answer your question, real estate is not technically one of AFC core sectors, but we take an integrated approach. So if your smart city has integrated infrastructure like power, roads, like you said, then that's something that we can look at and then try to make a compelling story. There's always an outlier project that doesn't fall within the sector, but the project is so significant, the impact is a lot, what is going to unlock the value creation is a lot, and it's something then that we can then look at and say, okay, let's make a story about it. So we would have to know more about it, your project readiness, what licenses do you have, what permits do you have, so that if you're making a story about it and I'm standing in front of a credit committee, say, look, this project is at this stage, this is what they've gotten, this is what we are going to get out of it, this is an impact story for AFC, and this is where, you want to say what you're doing in our host country. So a lot more information about that. I mean, Dolakpa has my details. Happy to speak to you afterwards, and then we can talk about how AFC can support you if it's something that we'll be interested in, and let's see if we can make it something that AFC will be interested in. Now then, thank you. For closing remark, I think when I looked into our data and saw that we had only 3 projects that were women-led, and then hearing what everybody, the panelists, has said, it's very clear that we're not asking that the bar should be reduced. We're not asking for a lower standard. we're asking that the metrics should be changed, that where you are looking for collateral, hard collateral, women will not necessarily have that. Let's look at bankability, let's look at cash flows, let's look at can this project stand on its own. Where you are looking for sponsor influence, let's look at credibility. Let's see, have they done it before? Like I said, when we were financing Funke Oshibodu for Video Power, it was a no-brainer. Everybody knew her, she had the reputation, she had the managerial skills, she had the leadership integrity. So those were the things that we were looking at to say, okay, we're going to back, this lady. So what we're asking is that let the metrics change. Let's look at risk allocation and, differently so that capital can actually flow to where it's highly, highly needed. So that's what I would say as a closing remark in terms of the gender lens. Let's not make it gender focused. It has to be a woman-led project. But let's also work on the fundamentals to ensure that it still meets this criteria and then look at it differently. Thank you.
Okay, to your point on your audacious project. Honestly, as you were speaking, what I was saying, I wasn't hearing infrastructure, I was hearing ecosystem, right? Because that's actually what you're building. You're building an ecosystem, right? It just happens that you require the infrastructure to bring it to life. And so I think if you look at it from that perspective, like, okay, what feeds into that ecosystem? At some point there's education, at some point there's lifestyle, at some point there's food, at some point there's, so, and I think in coming together, in getting the support that's required, right? Yes, the hardware, I can use it, the blocks need to be in place, but what's going to bring it to life is all these other bits, right? And the partnerships that you require, right? That's where it's actually going to come from, because that's what's going to bring it to life. So you've talked about the power aspects, whether it's the IPPs, I don't know what it is, but it's beyond that. Like I said, it's because people be interested in something to say, as part of this project, right, there's going to be a school. I'm just saying, I don't know if you have one, I'm just saying that, for example, like, education, that's going to flag for someone who's interested in education. What I'm saying is that it would be great if you can get all your funding from one place. I suspect perhaps not, right? So you need to be able to pull the multiple levers based on what is of interest to which party, and that's why you're looking at ecosystem perspective, right? And I think that's just a suggestion. In terms of final words, I think it's been an engaging, fantastic session, engaging session. It's fantastic hearing everything that everyone is saying and getting different perspectives. But I said again, from an angel investor perspective, I think it's important not to lose focus on the fact that funding women requires intentionality. It's not going to be default. Right? So if you're intentional, if you really say you want to fund female-founded, female-led, whatever it is, right, it requires some level of intentionality. And once that intentionality is there, then the means to find that will happen. But if you expect something to happen by default, like I said, I just love what you said about it's something said women funding and men are applying, because the guy is going to think to himself, why not? Then most they'll say is say no, right? And who knows, maybe they'll just decide, maybe if not enough women show up and I show up, then they might fund. You never know, so that trying, so for me is that, knowing that there's a level of audacity that may not exist. I'm speaking broadly now. There are those who have, those who do not, but speaking broadly. So in which case, it's not about lowering the barriers, it's about making sure you can find the people you're looking for. So the question is, where are they? So it may be more of a pull than a push, approach in terms of getting the right types of businesses to fund, because they are out there, but just trying to get them. So those are my final words. Thank you.
Panelists, really fantastic panelists. Just want to say thank you so much for your time. I know that these people are extremely busy and it's been a sacrifice for them to be here, but I hope it's been worthwhile. I think it has. Thank you so much. I mean, it's been worthwhile for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you to all our panelists. Can we give them a round of applause as they go to their seats, please? And can you all give yourselves a round of applause? You guys have been a wonderful audience. Oh yeah, now let's do it. Let's cheer ourselves on. So just to quickly let you know, we're almost at the end. So what we've got left probably will be maybe like another 15, 20 minutes and we're out of here. Thank you very much for your patience, to everyone that is here physically and to the online community as well. So just to let you know, I'm just going to give you a quick rundown of what we have to go. We're going to have a very short conversation by Dr. Tunji Shobodu. He's just going to share a few things with us very quickly. And then after that, we're going to have the vote of thanks from Dolapo. We're going to have group photographs. And then there's a tour of the museum that Dolapo would really like everyone to be a part of. So without further ado, until we can get along with it, I'm going to invite Dr. Tunji Shobodu to quickly talk to us about leading with audacity. And that's a word I've heard a lot of today. That audacity is a lot. And it's something that I think more women in this community need to get. So please, can we put our hands together for a round of applause for Dr. Tunji Shobodu, please.
All right, thank you once again. It's been quite an interesting morning. I'm going to do my very best to keep it short. A lot has been said about leading with audacity, actually. And it was interesting to hear, that characteristic about the responses that had been received already. For a call that was very clear about who and who were being expected to submit applications, and you still had, men defying the requirement and putting themselves out there. And I dare say that there are some of those men, possibly even all, who are expecting to be given attention, who are expecting that their submissions will be entertained, who are hoping that even if you didn't intend to fund, male-supported projects, that they would have submitted something so compelling that you would grant some exceptions or exemptions, as the case may be. And so that basically, it makes all the, makes a very instructive point about how would you describe that kind of attitude from the men. Clearly, they were audacious. Clearly, those men were audacious. There are people who should never have won, yet they did. By all standards, they shouldn't smell anything like victory. But they did. And it wasn't because the environment was fair. A lot of people expect things to be done fairly. Say, be fair to me. And that expectation, if you're expecting fairness, you may wait forever. I was once told by my chief executive at the time, back in the days when I was at UBA, and I was fighting for something, and I was expressing frustration about, why one or two people couldn't just respect, certain rules, and it went all the way to the CEO. And after he had listened to all I had to say, he responded by saying that he had a Chinese proverb. I wasn't sure whether it was really a Chinese proverb or whatever. But he said it was a Chinese proverb. I said, what was it? He said, the right of way is not given. It is taken. That was all he had to say to me. That was all his response. And if you were waiting for everyone to do what they're supposed to do, you are going to be disappointed you won't get very far. And I think it applies, especially to women. Women just expect you to be fair. They expect that some things are some things just obvious. I mean, can't you understand that this is what, is the appropriate thing to do? And that's like living in a world that is unrealistic. Because people want to grab what is not their entitlement. All right? And while I was thinking about this, and so that I can make this really short, I'm a student of, parables. So much so, I recently established, I haven't mentioned this to Dolapo, I established what I call the Emmet School of Parables. And so permit me to use a parable to just make the point here. Interestingly, the parable is about a woman. And it's a parable of a persistent widow. And when I thought about it, I said, oh, how well suited for an event like this. How come this parable was about a woman? And here was this woman who did not operate like a typical woman. Because nowadays, you all hear about people losing their husbands. We see it, it happens. And what happens thereafter, strange people come in, they want to take everything. And many times they succeed, unfortunately, aided by all kinds of things. But here was a situation where the woman simply said, no, it's not going to happen. I know what I'm entitled to, and I'm going to get it, whatever it's going to take. And she demonstrated what you would regard as audacity. Indeed, is a term that is used, shameless audacity. Why is it qualified as shameless? It's qualified as shameless because if you really want to be audacious, there are some things you have to damn. You want to be dignified, you won't get the result. You want to speak in a respectable manner, no, you won't get the result. If somebody is going to prevent you from laying hold on what you believe, should be yours, there are no niceties about it. Audacious people, we can speak nicely after the fact. But if it's going to prevent me from getting what I want, no, it's no time for niceties. All right? Yes, they won't go the extent of violence, but they make it clear to you that it's either they get it or nothing. It's either they get it, or nothing. Audacity, therefore, let me define it as the disciplined courage to pursue legitimate outcomes despite resistance, disadvantage, intimidation, delay, or structural opposition. Disciplined courage is not reckless boldness. It's not just being bold. It's not just being courageous. There's an application to your courage. There's an application to your boldness. It recognizes resistance, but it doesn't bow to it. It doesn't bow to it. One of the interesting things about this disposition, if you like, some might regard it as a mindset, is that it does not require skill. It doesn't require skill. It requires understanding to the point of conviction and the willingness to apply yourself. So much so that in a way is an extreme expression of faith. that in the end, I'm motivated more by the end than anything that's going to happen in between. Anything can happen in between, but the end is certain. The result, I desire is what I'm going to get. And I listen to, a couple of things that have been said. People saying your dream is too big. Well, people can say that. Many times, people like to make them judges over, how people think or what you can do. In the end, it's what you believe about yourself. It's the extent to which you are willing to extend yourself. And I guess one of the things about dreaming is that you need to qualify some dreams as well. All right, because you can dream, everybody can dream, but your dream needs to be put in proper context. All right, if you dream out of competence, then it can be a dream indeed. It can be a dream indeed. If you dream out of preparation, it can be a dream indeed. So those who are audacious, they have audacity to prepare. They have audacity to prepare. Audacious leaders build relevant capacity. They build relevant capacity. All right, being audacious is not about being rough. Being audacious is not about just wanting to fight your way through. Being audacious requires a level of preparation, and it requires competence. There is the audacity to take charge as well. Audacious leaders refuse to be silenced. They refuse to be silenced. That woman just kept going at the judge. Said, you need to avenge what people are trying to do to me, trying to take away my entitlement. She didn't care. It didn't matter. Wherever she saw the judge, she would bring up her issue. Very insistent, very persistent, making her case. So much so that she discovered that people also, even judges, have weaknesses. And one of the things about being audacious is that you test the limits of people's quest for peace. If they won't give you because you are entitled, they will give you because of their own peace. So you have to be willing to push to the point, quite frankly. If those men that apply, if they push to the point, to a certain point, and if the trend that we continue to see in the applications in Afara continues, then you're likely to get to a point where there will be one or two projects that will be so compelling, you will make a case for exception. You make a case for exception. Because in the end, if the women are not showing up and their male projects will be funded. All right? Where I come from, that's when you will hear the proverb that says, if a man saw the snake and a woman killed the snake, what's important? It's for the snake to die. So in this case, if what you're looking for is bankable projects in infrastructure and energy, and you waited all the while for the women, they didn't show up, and the men keep showing up, what are you going to do? You're going to fund, the men. Just say. There is the audacity to understand and use systems. One of the things you find from that, parable is this. And I think Dolapo can relate to this very well, because there was a session in which I spoke about this. That the woman trusted in the system, not in the individuals. You bet on the system. Why? The system is always going to be there. The system is always going to be there. And the people who bend the system or attempt to do so, are the individuals. If you rely on that, you weaken your stance. When you hold on to the system, it may take a while, but the system will never give other than to give you what you want, especially if you're well prepared for it. So audacious leaders know where authority sits. They know where authority sits. Many times the people that are sitting in positions of authority in institutions, are just there for a while. And they are not as powerful as they make themselves appear. Because in a twinkle of an eye, you look for them, you don't find them. So if you were betting on the individual, you weaken your ability to realize what you want. Audacity to persist through resistance. Audacious leaders convert weakness into leverage. Convert weakness into leverage. The widow had no obvious power, but one thing she had was persistence. She had no power. She had no power over the judge. She had no power over the system. She didn't use any relationship. She simply held on to one thing she had, which was, I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to give up. Resistance will come, bias will come, delays will come, funding gaps will come. There will be political complications. But the question is not whether resistance will come, the question is whether your preparation, consistency, and resolve are greater than the resistance. Finally, audacity to add transformational value. Audacious leaders pursue justice, not ego. All they are asking for is give me my entitlement. And that's a strong demand. How many people just allow that to go? There's a cultural dimension to it, I think, in our own case. You say, look, I just don't want trouble. Just allow, I beg, just allow. Whatever is going to be will be. No. The people who are audacious, that's not how they carry on. They've established my entitlement. I'm not going to do anything untoward. But I'm asking for justice. And if you ask for justice long enough, you will get it. Justice is like truth. You can suppress it for a while. But truth always has a way. Truth is one powerful force. It does not need anybody to fight for it. Just uphold it. Just stand on it. The more people try to suppress it, the more it will react. The more it will react. That's why they said, well, lies may run for a long while, but in the end, the truth will catch you. And that's what audacious people do. That's what she did. That's what she did. In the end, the judge had to say. The judge never said to this woman, you're asking for what is not your entitlement. I mean, that would have been very easy to silence. He knew that on that front, he could not confront her. And that's all she kept saying. All I want is justice. Say, give me justice against these adversaries. And so in closing, Africa does not need more spectators. Africa needs builders, builders of systems, institutions, sustainable infrastructure, energy access, and opportunity. And many of those builders must be women who are prepared to lead with audacity. So it's important that the women, in fact, I dare say that the demonstration of this is what Dolapo already did. Because, I know when we began to talk about this and she began to share, ideas, I thought, hey, and then you mentioned $1 billion, in how many years? And it's just like that. But I know enough about the way, about her and how we have worked together to know that it's not just branding a figure in the air. When she mentions it, she's ready to put everything behind it to make sure it happens. So we lead with audacity, not because the road is easy, but because the future is too important for timid leadership. Thank you.
I honestly think that deserves a round of applause. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm sitting there, I'm nodding like an agama, and I'm like, yes. This is the energy we need to take out, I don't think you could have said it better. We've heard words like audacity, courage, intentionality, and I think today, all of us in this room and those online can all agree that those are words that describe Dolapo Kukoyi and what she set out to do. So again, this is the last time I'll ask you guys a final round of applause for her, please. Thank you so much. Before I hand over the mic to Dolapo to give us a vote of thanks, appreciation, please just note that once she's done, we would like a group photograph. You've been fantastic. You've waited in the room this long. We would like to record that you were here. So when she hit that $1 billion mark and everything, it's like, I was there the day it happened. I was there when we, exactly. And just in case she's feeling generous and she's sharing, that would be the evidence that you were here on this day. So please wait behind for the photographs. And then lastly, there will be the museum tour that will be conducted by the museum. And then on your way out, please pick up your refreshments and go. Before I give Dolapo the mic, I'm just going to say a personal experience to this. I don't think you were talking about in this context, but let me just say this. So 10 years ago where I used to work, right, my boss would travel. And every time he comes back from a trip, I always knew he had biscuits and chocolate and things that I liked. But one day I'm like, why is nobody asking this man? So I would go into his office. I'd be like, sir, can I have a biscuit? I think the first time I did it is looking like, from where to where exactly. But long story short is, he gave me once. And then after that, it became a thing for me. When he comes back, by the time he comes, I watch him, he's in the office, I come back with a bag. And it's an open plan office, right? So everybody starts looking at me like, what's going on here? And one day, so people start murmuring okay, why is she always she goes in and she gets what she wants. And one day in the team meeting, he said, let me give you an example of goat-like behavior. That would be Jade Sola. Jade is like a goat. She comes into my office, she has 10 requests. She knows that I'm not going to grant the 10 requests, but she will harass me so much that I'm just going to give it just to get her out of my office. And so that's how I get biscuits, that's how I get everything I want. I go in there, and like you said, I would always come with requests. I always have a sheet. So I shall know that by the time I get to the 5th one, the guy is tired because I would have talked his head off. And he just goes, take it, go. Take it, go. You want this to do this project? Go and do it. So again, please, may I remind you that there's a lot of shamelessness involved in getting what you want. I don't have shame. Yeah. So please go out there, be shameless, go after everything you want, and then let God and the universe work in your favor. On that note, I would like to call Dolapo to give us a vote of thanks as we wrap this up. Thank you.
Can I have my appreciation slide? Where's Sam? Hi. Hey, Sam, where's my appreciation slide? Okay, well, that is going on. I have a very interesting team. As in, my heart is really full. This is almost surreal. I remember when I was coming into Nigeria, and I think it's been 2 weeks now. And as the plane was landing, I said to myself, I wanted to picture in my head the memory of what it would be when I was going, when I was leaving, because I kind of live between here and the UK. And I pictured in my head that I would go back so grateful. But I can't even, as in now, maybe I didn't even imagine how grateful I would be. I mean, it's not like I've received $1 million or something. But, I mean, for this event. But the support, I mean, starting from the team. I'm telling you that everybody in this team started working volunteering. So Nina, Nenrit is like my TA. When I met Nenrit, and it was as if for every single person, I had the nudge that there's something this person should do. There's something this person should do. Every single person that works for this team. In fact, Sam, it was a fight. For Sam, the first time I'm meeting Sam is when he came to Lagos. Sam lives in Kano. So he doesn't live in Lagos. And it was Nerit who introduced Sam and said, oh, we need someone to do graphics. Okay, she has someone who will do it. And then Sam, I'm not saying, Sam, so you can't be doing this for free. Not like we even have money. But I would like to give you something for your internet because he'll be using a lot of internet. He was saying no. I mean, one day, we just had a conversation. And when we started talking, and she just said, I believe in this. I'm not like, hello, are these people really kidding me? Even Madam Bukola, she just saw the concept and just said, I really believe in this. I would like to somehow be an adjunct member of the team. So she's on our WhatsApp group. Sometimes when she has time, she joins meetings. I am so grateful for, and many, I mean, I can't talk about Dr. Shubuda, I can't talk about Pastor B, I can't talk about even my Madam Olainka Yutunji and many people. And I mean, look, Adedoyin, all the time I've talked about this content, and she will ask me, oh, how is it going, and everything. So many people. Bolu, I just want to say, my family, in fact, that's another blessing. So some of you may not know that my brother actually works in the team. I've almost killed him inside this work. I've almost killed him inside this work. In fact, you know how God just puts people in your lives? At one time, I was telling him, this is not the main thing, this is not the thing. He said, no, this thing, you must do it. For us to even do the event, he said, choose a date. Choose a date. No money, no sponsor. Choose a date. When you choose the date, you will know. I'm just so grateful. When you have a dream, or when God gives you a dream or a vision, if you don't have people, it won't happen. It won't happen. If you don't have people, it won't happen. And even for projects, even when you are building your business, people are the most integral part of it. So that's why I'm thanking God and thanking all the people. If you're an Afara team member, please stand up. Please, can you help me give them a round of applause? They work on a volunteer basis, Sometimes you are just able to give them something. But thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I know and I hope that you are learning a lot. Because what I also try to do when I have people is that I just try to pour into them as much as possible. Because they will not be with us forever. Thank you, Sheung. We are clapping for Afara people. Wait first. And get your applause. Yes, so I'm also grateful to these sponsors. They are on the way partners. But we are making progress. The Catalyst Fund that Toyin represents, I met Toyin physically last week, and we just hit it off. I think I'd seen him at an event before, but we hadn't had a conversation, and we just hit off, and he promised to come. I mean, it's only God that just makes those things happen. I don't know about you, but for me, my own story. Kingdom of the Netherlands that Bukola represents, she put me in touch with someone at The Hague, and we've been having interesting conversations. And I know that we're going to do things together. IFC, I've been on IFC's neck. And I know that we're going to take this forward. The fact that IFC actually sent someone to represent them is, for me, a testimony. Because it's a mammoth organization. They are doing many things, many things, And they have the interesting things that they have their own programs, like 6. They have a lot of programs around gender. So they could have chosen that, please, what are you going to add to our own? And even just chosen that they would not even, bother with it. But they listened, they paid attention. It's a long walk with them, but it's obvious that it's something that matters to them as an organization. Africa Finance Corporation, many emails, many conversations, and God helped me find one person that I thought, let's take this conversation forward. Mrs. Fumwebwe is one of our advisory board members, and she's such a phenomenal person. When I have a conversation with her, she just gives me ideas, pam, do this, do that. Even with this event, we had to make some last-minute changes that really turned things around for us. One, an Africa food chain makers. I have an interesting story there. And I choose to say these things so that people, so that you understand the value of relationships. So when I was trying to do this, I listened to Ndidi Muneli she was a platform. I didn't have her number. I thought I actually had it. And I reached out to her on LinkedIn and said, I have something that I'm doing. I'd like you to hear about it. Because from the way she spoke, I knew that there were parts, alignments that we had. So I said, I just want you to hear about what I'm doing. She actually responded to me. I mean, someone who is president of one world, she's extremely busy. And she responded to me, and we had a call. I remember that day, she was even in her car. Well, she took the call. And even in a 30-minute conversation, she told me about Africa Food Change Makers, which is an organization she started around women in the agri-space. And she told me that this is the model that can work for you. I don't run it from day to day. I set it up, and they're running by themselves. I will introduce you to them. And she introduced me to them. Most of the people we got in our application came from that platform. And the conversations we are having with the Kingdom of the Netherlands is around doing something around energy and agriculture. So we have a partner there. Now, this only happened, she didn't give me money, but she gave me access. And this was because someone bothered to have a 30-minute conversation. Now, again, another thing there is that when you two get there, in wherever you are, please give people a chance. Give people a chance. Let's never be too busy to listen to people. And whatever it is you can give, you never know. A piece of advice, a story, you never know how it will transform people. Please. And then there's J. Randu. I thought I saw. Did he run away? So J. Randu is one of our partners. I mean, they gave us this space. They didn't give us for free, but very subsidized. And they've been exceptionally, helpful to us. And there's Kabo. Kabo is an app started by Shehu Ajayi. It's essentially an app that allows for events and all of that. So all the things you got by WhatsApp, by email, he actually created the app. So please encourage him. Encourage him, use the app, invest in him. He still needs money to build the app. We're actually using it as a test. So he's fixing bugs in the app right now because of the experience that he's used. So please encourage him. You should actually talk to Tony. I'm sure you've talked to Tony. And then there's Happy Coffee. Happy Coffee agreed to come and set up here, for a very subsidized rate. And I was happy because it's owned by a woman. And I was very happy, very, very happy to support any woman, So thank you very much to everyone in the room. Thank you very much to where's Augusta? Has she left? Thank you, Augusta. So from the time I spoke to Augusta about this, she's just been so excited, I don't even understand. She's carrying this more on her head than me. Jadesola, thank you. Thank you that I reached out to you. I know you are busy. I know that it's not as if you are playing. I reached out to her and she immediately responded and said she would do it. Thank you. Thank you. Please, if I've forgotten anybody, please. I mean, our crew, our caterers, media team, Mr. Abraham, Bill Clinton, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.